Hi, and welcome to Green Tea. My name is Rose. This is Francesca.
Hello.
And this is Sammy.
Hello.
And today's episode is going to be about the whole, concept of perfect activism. Right now we have actually 2 other episodes out, so if you haven't heard those yet, you should probably go back and listen to them, because in this one, we're going to be referencing some things, especially from our last video, about, perfect activism, in the LGBT community and things like that. But kind of the whole idea is that there's a big stigma, especially on the internet, and I feel like really the only way you run into this is through the media, about when someone tries to fight for, social justice, or someone is, speaking about that, if they have ever done anything wrong about what they're talking about, they are just, slandered. Someone could be, openly homophobic, and then you're comparing them to someone who's we should fight for gay rights, but who has one time been I'm a little uncomfortable sometimes around gay people, but I'm getting over it. They'll be this openly homophobic person is better than you because at least they're sticking to their guns. And I'm I feel like the internet, at least right now, has really taken away people's opportunity to grow, and it doesn't give people any room to be human, and I don't think that that's a good thing. I think it's a little toxic.
I mean, the whole obsession with receipts and finding old things that are no longer relevant and using them as if that's oh, well, that's what you really think. That's what, as if people cannot change over time, is absolutely ridiculous. And also, it's so insanely ridiculous on 5 separate levels.
And especially because I'll admit it's very easy to not like a group of people when you're not familiar with them. It's not good that it's easy, and it's definitely something that everyone should work on. But as someone who went to Catholic school for a long time, and I didn't know any openly gay people, I was homophobic for a time. I was never I hate the gays and they should die. But I was I don't know if they should call it marriage. Maybe call it something else. You know?
You were raised to realize you were raised taught that it was a sin, that it was wrong.
Plot twist. I am in the LGBT. I am the whole thing.
Well, I mean, and that's the thing. It's such a contradiction, because we want people to become educated. We want people to want to be educated about these issues, because ignorance is ultimately what you don't want to do.
It's harmful.
Ignorance is not bliss.
Yeah, ignorance is what we don't want to have happen. So when you eliminate people's progress, that's the message that you're sending, is that no, if you started off thinking incorrectly, it doesn't even matter if you right your ways, because what you did then is what defines you.
And I will say, it's a frustrating thing seeing this on social media. And it's kind of a weird, issue, just because I see it all the time, where someone on social media will say something kind of inconsiderate, a little offensive, but you can definitely, tell that they weren't it's coming from a place of ignorance, not a place of hatred. And then, people, come after them, to the point where they're going to hate that, community that they were talking about, and end up saying those things from a place of hatred, just because of the way they've been treated.
Yeah, because they don't want to learn about it anymore.
And it's a weird area, because I don't think that it should be a gay person's responsibility to be kind to people who are saying things that are, even if they're not hatred, even if it's coming from a place of ignorance, I don't think that a gay person was responsible to teach me that gay people do deserve marriage. Yeah.
I mean, it's never I don't want to say victim, but it's never the marginalized group the responsibility to fight for their rights against the oppressor. It's never been that way, just because, I mean, logically, they're never going to be the ones that make any progress. It always has to be the people who aren't on either side, who are outside, who are bystanding, who are watching this happen, who are allowing it to happen, that they have to make the effort there.
You can't give the rights to yourself. But it's also a weird area, because it's usually the marginalized group that comes after these people, and I'm kind of rightly so. And this might just be the apologist in me jumping out, which is definitely something that I have to work on. But I always do kind of I feel bad for them. That horse gun girl on Twitter. She didn't start off being the worst, you know.
Yeah.
Her whole thing about wanting guns on schools is because of the whole Kent State thing that happened at her school. And she was saying the government killed students. Students should be able to protect themselves. And I'm like, that's very flawed logic, I think. Mm-hmm. More guns into a school is not going to make a safer school. No. But it started off as her just being like, so I want to do this thing. And then, like, people attacked her. And I'm, like, kind of, like, rightly so. Like, that's fucking stupid. Stop bringing guns to school. Why do you need a gun that big? I just...
Fair.
Yeah. But it's turned her into, like, a very radical person. And I see that happen kind of often, where people say something kind of ignorant, and then that's where the whole, like, social justice warrior, like, stigma comes from. Is that people see, instead of, like, educating people to get them out of that place of ignorance, people kind of attack them. And then, and I've seen people arguing for it and being like, well, they can just Google things. Because it's especially, I've seen it with, like, when people do something that's, like, cultural appropriation. Mm-hmm. And like, it's definitely coming from a place of ignorance, you know. When it's coming from a place of hatred, you can attack them. That's fine. Yeah. They deserve it. When it's coming from a place of ignorance, it's a gray area. Because it is your responsibility to try and, like, teach yourself, but not everyone comes from the same background. Like, there are, like, towns in the Midwest that, like, don't have anyone who's not white in them. And I'm like, hey, that's probably a problem. You should have diversity everywhere. Yeah. But this person has never really been exposed to a lot of things. I know that you can say, like, maybe the internet has taken this out and they should be exposed to these things. But I don't know. I feel like everyone kind of deserves the benefit of the doubt to not assume that they're a terrible person.
I think that's what it essentially boils down to, is kind of having that human compassion and empathy to give them the benefit of the doubt. Be like, okay, what you said sounded horrible, but I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt and maybe ask you, hey, did you mean to come off like this, or were you really just like, you know, did you phrase it wrong? And even if they do, like, oh no, I meant what I said, be like, okay, do you realize the implications of that and the ideology behind that? Because, again, ignorance is what we don't want. We don't want it to be spreading. Mm-hmm. And we've found ourselves in this position where it's somehow a better strategy to cancel someone or to write them off completely than to try and educate them. Mm-hmm. And I really do take a problem with the idea of, like, well, you should be taking your own initiative and educating yourself, because you don't know something is a problem until someone tells you. Mm-hmm. Like, logically, that's just not something, like, we're talking into a mic right now. Maybe we shouldn't be doing it with this, particular contraption. I'm not going to know, hey, is it okay to do this? I'm not going to Google that unless someone says, hey, actually, that was manufactured by a really shitty company. I'd be like, no idea. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't know if something's a problem.
And, like, I will say that once you're aware of how common problems are, like, once I became aware of, like, that H&M is treats their workers terribly, then it's kind of on me to do more research and find out what other companies was I previously buying from that treat their workers like shit and have sweatshops where they get all their clothes. Fun fact, it's basically all of them that are not fair trade, so look out for that. Future episode. And I don't know, I just see people all the time saying, like, well, Google is free. And it's like, yeah, but, I mean, you're not benefiting anyone. You're just kind of stuck in this cycle of, like, hatred. And I don't want to sound like a gross hippie, but that's not going anywhere. And I understand where it's frustrating to try and educate someone who you feel doesn't, like, deserve the, like, your kindness and your time. But I don't know. I think that in this time where things are changing very quickly, maybe it's our responsibility. Like, if you are educated on these issues and you see that other people aren't, you should know that's not necessarily their fault, just because, like, if you compare what's okay now to what was okay in, like, 2008, it's vastly different. So, of course, some people haven't caught up as far. Yeah. And maybe it is our responsibility to try and educate people who, like, don't know and, like, do it from a place of kindness instead of a place of frustration.
Yeah, and I think that also comes down to it in the sense of, if you don't want to educate someone, I think it's actually better that you probably don't, because the way you're going to go about it is just very condescending, frustrated. They're going to take it
the wrong way.
The wrong way. You're not going to make the progress that you would if you were doing it with, like, good intentions, or intentions that were, you know, not from a place of just, like, total frustration and annoyance.
And I will say, like, I feel like the biggest one of this is cultural appropriation, so I don't want to make too many points at it, just because, like, I am a white person. I've never had my culture appropriated, you know, so it's not really, it's not really, I eat plain potatoes.
What do you mean I have no culture?
Yeah. But I don't know, but, like, I do see people, like, there was the girl who wore the prom dress.
It was the traditional Chinese dress.
But so she, you know, wore something that she shouldn't have, and while she probably should have common sensed this and been like, this isn't my culture, should I not wear to prom? But she didn't, and she's also, like, a teenager. I feel like maybe she shouldn't have been so ruthlessly attacked.
Absolutely.
Because then, like, Fox News brought her on and made her a martyr for white people.
Right.
You
God,
know?
this poor girl. What I mean, that's the thing. Also, the age is something to, like, I understand in our society with technology, you can learn things super fast. Information, communication is all extremely fast. But biologically, we have not caught up to that. Like, regardless of how much internet is available to me, I'm still a teenager. And so is she. And you're
still going to make mistakes.
Yeah, regardless. I mean, that's human. You are going to make mistakes. The best you can do is, after that mistake, is realize it was a mistake. And realize that you were thinking something that, hey, wasn't the best. And that's the best you can do. Because, honestly, this idea of, like, the perfect activism, being the perfect, like, constantly aware of every single issue, is just a fantasy. Like, it's just not possible at that point. Like, it's just not realistic.
Yeah, and, like, that's why we always say in our episodes, if you disagreed with something that we said, let us know, because we'd like to learn, because, like, obviously what we say we think is right, but, like, it might not be, just because, like, A, we haven't lived full lives in every single person's shoes on Earth, so we don't know. We're not perfectly woke. We haven't been every single human being.
No hive mind.
No, working on it. But we're, I'd say 5 years from that.
Yeah.
So we're always, like, willing to learn. And I think that that's just the most important thing, is that, like, if you see an activist who has done some problematic things, but when they do something, apologizes genuinely, grows from it, and is always willing to learn before they do something problematic. Like, I don't know, I think it happens with YouTube stars most often, because YouTube stars are, I don't know, they're just flawed human beings. But, like, I always see a YouTube star doing something, like, slightly problematic, and, like, first a ton of people, like, right off the bat are like, we're never gonna support you again, you trash human being.
Canceled.
Yeah. And, well, some of them, yes, deserve it. I think, like, I don't know, can we make it, like, a strike system or something? Because when someone does something problematic the first time, and if they, like, genuinely, like, learn from it and, like, apologize, like, truly, then I think that that's fine. They should be forgiven. Everyone's human, everyone makes mistakes, and they're on this public platform. So, in reality, we've all probably made a mistake similar to theirs. It's just that our actions aren't being so scrutinized. Like, I'm sure that I don't know, maybe not to, like, the levels of some of them.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't think I've ever sympathized with a Nazi before.
Nope,
Or, like,
not
said
I.
the N-word.
Yeah,
Like, said I wasn't going to vaccinate my kids. I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't done any of that.
So that's just...
But
let's just blacklist Kat Von D. Out. She's out.
right now.
Sis just married a Nazi, so...
But that is, like, kind of a good point, is that while some of them can be forgiven, when your mistake directly and automatically harms another person, we should take that into account of, like, how much can you be forgiven. Because, like...
marrying a Nazi is unforgivable.
I think that's just a bad idea.
Yeah,
and overall. My number one relationship advice, welcome to Dear Abby, is don't marry Nazis.
It's just wrong.
Right off the bat.
I mean, like, with YouTube stars, and I think it's a great example, because they are just regular people. They just have happened to...
find this platform,
be incredibly successful on this platform. And while I'm all for making people with large followings accountable for their actions and their ideology, which they are, like, releasing onto a very wide audience and maybe a very naive or, you know, willing audience, at the same time, you also have to kind of give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, in the sense that they are still human. I mean, I think it's very easy as a normal person to see someone like a YouTuber and be like, well, they're not even, like, real, really. Like, they live in this incredible house, they have all this money, this is their job, is making videos online, they get to do palettes and stuff, they make all kinds of business deals. Like, it seems like they're not really human anymore. I think it's very easy to fall into that mentality, and we just need to remind everyone involved that money can affect your morals, definitely, but doesn't make you not human.
And it also makes them more likely to make a mistake since they're so separated from the rest of society. It's not as easy for them to learn, like, the little things that we learn, like the subtle social nuances when something's no longer okay. They might not catch on to that because they're living, like, a different life than most other people. And going back to Kat Von D, though, and the whole, like, not vaccinating your kids, which I take issue with.
As you should.
Yeah, thank you. I don't want children to die based off of preventable diseases. Yeah. But that's just my hot take.
It's not so hot take.
I think that you should, though, consider that while someone is, like, making a mistake, when that mistake is going to directly impact someone else, then maybe, I don't know if it should be forgiven. Like, Kat Von D is defending her choice.
Yeah.
So that's not if she, like, one day goes back and was like, it was wrong, then, like, maybe, then she'll get, like, credibility back. But
I don't know if we should give her credibility back. She dated a Nazi and then she just married another Nazi. So.
I feel like that's separate.
Yeah,
like with the vaccines.
Yeah, like, specifically, like, not really her. Like, just, okay, we'll make up a fake person. This person who has never, ever dated a Nazi.
Who doesn't want to vaccinate
They punch Nazis actually on the daily, but they don't want to vaccinate their kids. I think that it's not, like, the worst thing to be an anti-vax person, because they're coming from a place of they think that it's going to harm their kids.
Ignorance.
Yeah, because some people, I don't know. I've never been in the place where I truly think that the government is out to get me. I think that that's wild. Yeah. But, like, I understand some things are weird, like the dairy industry and stuff like that, about, like, how, like, the kind of, like, weird propaganda and stuff like that. But, like, I don't think that the government is trying to hypnotize me through vaccines.
And also the whole, like, argument that, vaccinations are going to harm your children are typically ableist. They're like, oh, it's going to give my kid autism. As if autism is the worst thing that can happen to your child.
I'd rather my kid die of measles than be autistic.
Yeah, like,
I hate that argument. It's like, yeah, if it gives your kid autism, you should still take the vaccine.
Yeah,
because the ulterior is just not having a fucking kid.
Yeah, or also killing somebody else's kid who literally could not get a vaccine because of certain autoimmune things.
Like, I know, like, we all know a couple people who have autoimmune things, I think. Well, like, we want
deficiencies.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Thank you for that word. Things. Autoimmune situations. And, like, I just think that it's so fucked up that one parent being like, vaccines are icky. It might make my kid less easy to deal with. I'm just not gonna do it. And then another kid just fucking dies because they already had a set thing, and you shirked your responsibility to, like, society to protect, like you have when you have the swine flu, you don't go to a nursing home. If you know that you might be carrying a
virus,
then you shouldn't go around autoimmune people. If your kid isn't vaccinated, then I hope that you keep them in a bubble for their entire lives, because you're putting other children at harm.
That's the thing. Obviously, like, no question about it, I would much rather my kid be autistic than dead. I'd rather my kid be a lot of things rather than dead.
Yeah.
But that whole idea comes from a complete bullshit study that was made up and has been debunked countless times over, which is when the Kat Von D thing comes really into perspective, is people are telling her and are trying to educate her and say, listen, this is a popular misconception. The study was actually total bullshit.
That's actually not the reason why she doesn't want to vaccinate her kids.
Well, I mean, with the autism.
Yeah.
We're
talking about the pretend woman.
Yeah, the pretend woman.
Sorry.
Those results have been falsified, like, it wasn't real, it's been debunked countless times. The guy who did it lost his medical license over it. And then still staying with that stance, okay, now you're actually being harmful and you're not trying to learn.
Because a part of me does understand, because we live in a time where polio and the measles, like, I've never encountered that. I've never seen someone sick with that. Like, I mean, I've seen one of the Roosevelts, like, pictures, but that's about it. But, so, I can kind of understand where you're like, do I really need to vaccinate my kid against these diseases that seem like they're not even around anymore, if it could possibly harm my kid?
Yeah.
But it's kind of like, that's not how you should take it. Like, when you're doing something that serious, you should do the research, and the research will tell you that the diseases are still around, and that if you don't vaccinate your kid, they can either get it and die, or give it to someone else, and that person will die.
And, like, literally, not too long ago, somewhere like Idaho, Iowa, some people don't really...
Portland, Oregon, someone died of the measles recently.
There were, like, 50 kids that were exposed to the measles. What was it, in, like, Idaho? Something like that.
Yeah, something northwest.
But, regardless of where it was, like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, in this day and age, that should not be happening. It's, like...
Anywhere.
It is just, like, mind-numbingly ridiculous that has happened in this country, in the United States of America.
I feel like people in third world countries must fucking hate us. Because we're like, yeah, I could totally afford to protect my kid from preventable diseases, and I don't really want to. And then the person at the third world country who cannot afford the vaccine is like,
also, like, they're just not available to them, and they're like,
yeah, I'm gonna tap myself in for this combo, actually. I come from a country with hyperinflation. No one can afford medicine. Just because it's so, the price is so incredibly inflated, no one can afford it. There are people dying literally daily because they cannot afford medication. And then we have these absolute... I don't want to call them hippies, because that's just rude. But, like...
the two vegans here.
The two vegans on my left and right.
Yeah.
But, like...
Clock you real quick.
Well, just that's the thing. Like, it's such a not only lack of, like, consideration for your child and the society that you live in, but, like, worldwide. Are you kidding me? You have the option to do this. Your insurance probably covers it.
Yeah.
And
vaccines are almost essentially free.
Yes.
Like, the government subsidized. And, like, I get where people are like, it's weird that the government is trying to pay for this. Is it because they want us to have it because it'll control our minds? I'm like, no, it's because it's literally protecting the rest of the society. That way we can keep functioning as a nation.
They don't want us to die, so.
To pass you should worry about econ class and a government class and then come back.
Right.
But, I feel like we should get off of this tangent because it is very far off of the original topic. We can make another podcast about how ableist and terrible the vaccine debate is.
Oh, yeah.
Fuck anti-vaxxers, am I right?
Yeah, that'll be the title of the podcast. Look out for it.
Absolutely.
But another thing that I've seen a lot, going back to the whole perfect activism thing on Twitter, I'm sure everyone's kind of aware of the, like, anti-straws trend.
Yeah.
And as a vegan, I follow a lot of other vegans on Twitter, and I understand, like, the angry veganism. Like, sometimes I'm like, yeah, maybe, like, we do need angry vegans just because the meat industry and the dairy industry are really fucked up. And
they're strong.
Yeah. They're, like, rich and fucked up, so it's very easy for them to hide how fucked up they are. And maybe we do need those angry vegans who constantly, like, shove how terrible it is in people's faces. That way, like, somehow it is spreading knowledge. But I have seen a lot of people recently talking about the whole, like, when people are saying, like, I'm not going to use straws anymore, I'm cutting out plastic from my life and stuff like that. I've seen a lot of vegans particularly, and I'm sure other people are doing it, it's just I only follow vegans, is that they'll say, as if straws are the, like, most harmful thing to the environment, you're a fake environmentalist if you still eat meat, because the meat industry is the most harmful thing. And I'm like, yes, the meat industry is the most harmful thing to the environment. Like, it's more harmful than, like, all transportation and things like that.
Combined.
Yeah. It's, like, it is just terrible.
Disgusting.
But, yeah, we can make another podcast on that as well.
Yes.
Do your research in the meantime, because, oh my god, it's horrifying. But I don't think that we should discourage people from trying to make a positive difference.
Yes.
If someone was saying, I'm going to replace all of my plastic straws with meat straws, then maybe you can go in with the, like, meat education.
No, that's just kind of wrong.
Yeah, and you could be like, that's actually worse for the environment, did you know?
Yeah.
But that's the time where you come in. If they're trying to replace it with something good, and they're making a mistake, that's when I think that you should come in with the, like, you shouldn't do aggressive education, but that's when I can, like, understand it. But it's just so, like, I just want to, like, tell these people to stop. Like, shut up.
Well, and it comes back to that idea of empathy. and really understanding that they're doing it because they want to help and they do want to make a change. So you don't want to come at them aggressively or discourage them from doing what little they are choosing to do.
Yeah.
It honestly comes back to empathy at that point. You have to think and be like, they're trying to help, so why would you try and discourage that? I do not know. That doesn't make any logical sense.
No.
And, like, I get it when it's weird seeing people praised for doing the bare minimum, you know, where it is kind of...
the bare minimum Twitter.
Yeah,
Jeez.
honestly. Where, like, it's kind of frustrating, me being someone who's like, I go to marches, I use compostable trash bags, like, you know, doing all that, like, stuff. And then it's, you know, and then it's weird seeing people who, like...
Are being congratulated.
Who are like, you are a god, who are like, I don't... last week, someone offered me a plastic straw, and I said, no thanks.
Oh,
and I'm like... And
President.
honestly, worship them. And I'm like, I carry a bamboo straw in my purse, actually. But that's when my logic and reasoning as a human being who's above the age of 13 can come into play and realize I should not come out of the cut like a strong left hook and be like, actually, I'm a better environmentalist because I don't eat meat, I'm vegan, and I do all of these things, and you rejected one straw, so you're still a terrible human being who's killing the environment.
Right. Yeah, like,
because then you know what they're gonna do? They're gonna take a handful of straws and
throw
like
them on the ground.
Yeah, and just throw them into a cedar turtle's mouth. They're just gonna shove it into the cedar turtle's nose and be like, "Fuck you."
And like, I feel like a lot of people are like, "Oh, why are you so serious about it?" Like, me not using a straw isn't gonna change things. If you have the ability to change what you're doing and not use a straw, if you have the, like, physical, economical capability to buy a thing of reusable straws and not use plastic straws, then why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you want to take steps to, like, help things rather than damaging them when you have the ability not to?
It's kind of like doing a small good or continuing to do a small bad. It's kind of like that one, like, sure, that one plastic straw probably isn't going to be the one that's going to break the ozone layer. But when you think about it, when it comes down to it, like, something's going to push it over the edge.
Yeah,
you know?
and
And,
one
like,
straw is better than no straw from that person.
Like, anything that is positive or just nothing, like,
Yeah.
no impact, is better than something that has a negative impact. So, like, it is better for you to not do the bare minimum, of course.
Yeah, obviously.
But doing the bare minimum is better than doing nothing.
Yeah.
And that's why it's frustrating seeing people discourage it. It's like, can't we just all try and stop the world from ending?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's the thing, like, I mean, everyone says that there is no ethical consumption under capitalism, but that does not mean, and that I full-heartedly agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that does not mean you can't try and limit what you do and how much you do consume and how much you do hurt and what you hurt specifically. Starbucks really not pioneered, that's a not correct, I'm sure.
They were one of the first big corporations that, like, everyone knows. Though.
Yeah, to start doing the no straws and really bring that up into public debate. And they also were one of the first companies to raise the living wages, like the wages of their employees in a way that, you know, they can actually, like, you know, live.
Yeah, and, like,
It's a good
Starbucks
wage.
has, like a college thing and stuff like
No,
that.
Starbucks is a really good company to
Great
work
company.
for. Like, they literally, if
Yeah.
you're trans and you work for Starbucks, they help pay for your hormones.
Oh, that's really nice.
Yes.
Like, because I am ridiculous. I have emailed corporate Starbucks before over a recycling thing, because one of my friends works at a Starbucks, and she said that her particular store was breaking the rules, and they used, like, 7 gallons of milk a day, probably more, and they just threw it in the trash instead of recycling it. And that made me, like, freak out on the inside and have, like, a miniature, like, the world is ending a thing. So I emailed corporate Starbucks, and I was like, hey, I would like to...
Snitch.
Yeah, immediately. One of your stores isn't recycling, and they're using a ton of plastic. Shouldn't they do this? And they responded to me.
Yeah.
They said that they were forwarding it, and I never heard back after they forwarded it, but I appreciated the initial response.
And that's, I brought
They
it
could
up.
have just been like, fuck you, I'm gonna let the turtles
Yeah.
show
Delete.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's like, I brought up Starbucks because I saw this post on Tumblr, which, I mean, honestly, I don't know why I go on Tumblr, because this is the stuff that you find, where it was a news article about Starbucks had raised its wages and how it was paying people, and I'm pretty sure there was something with health insurance involved. I didn't read it because I didn't read it. But all the replies were from people who, like, either come from different countries and are living in America or are in other countries, and they're like, well, that's absolutely ridiculous because all of our companies do that. Our system, our government is just built to have, like, a good wage. So we shouldn't be celebrating Starbucks because that's just normal. And that is absolutely ridiculous. Like, again, that attitude of, like,
It's not a
you're
thing
not,
in America.
It's not a thing here, damn it. I'll take the wages, thank you. And the
I'd
insurance.
like to live.
Well, I mean, like, that's the thing. It's that same attitude of, well, there are things that are better. You could be doing more, so what you're doing, we're not going to congratulate you. And no. And absolutely not. In this, like, political and economical landscape, you need to praise the companies that are taking steps forward, even if they're just, like, tiny, minuscule baby steps and you think they could be doing much more. You need to praise that as a consumer.
Because, like, it is really true. One of the strongest votes that we have in our country is with our dollar.
Yeah.
Like, Smoothie King used to use styrofoam for all of their cups. They recently switched to plastic. That way it has the option of being recycled, because styrofoam is just trash. My mom, God bless that vegan woman, emailed them thanking the company, and then the company responded to her, and she had, like, a conversation with Smoothie King, and they were like,
With
yeah,
the
we're
Smoothie
actually,
King himself.
yeah, the Smoothie King himself, she had to curtsy and everything.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a lot. But they, like, actually emailed her and was like, we're trying to work on, like, getting straws out of our stores as well, and stuff like that, and, like, that's the kind of thing where,
drink
like,
your smoothies.
sippy cup, spoon.
Stop being weak.
Although, honestly, I would like everyone to know that compostable straws are a thing. You
That's
can get
true.
a straw made out of corn fiber plastic. Don't put it in too hot liquid or else it'll melt. But
They're smoothies. So
yeah,
Well, that's what I
cold.
Like, the big argument against those types of things, like, oh, well, it costs more. But here's the thing. If you buy more from the companies who are trying to move forward and be more environmentally friendly and, you know, try and reduce their footprint, they have more money to buy that. Like, that's how that
And are we
works.
gonna pretend like companies like McDonald's and stuff are not corporately rich enough?
Oh,
to-
yeah, they're
the
fucking
mo-
Yeah, no. They can definitely shell out the extra 25 cents per, like, tube of cups.
Yeah.
And honestly, if you don't pay the extra price now, you're gonna be paying for it later when we're all swimming in garbage. So that's my
No
TED
more
Talk.
swimming, kids.
Yeah. And I think one of the final things that we should talk about is canceling people because they reacted in a human way. Because I think that we can all do problematic things in the moment, you know? Because, like, again, the theme of the podcast, we're all human. We all make mistakes. And there's a difference between being an apologist, like, God, I don't even know how to pronounce his name. XXX Tentacion. Him.
I love that you said it like that.
XXX.
Temptation?
Tentacles.
I have been reading it as tentacles the entire time, and then I watched a video and someone said out loud, I was like, oh my,
Shit.
you're right, that's not how you spell tentacles. I'm illiterate.
Tennis balls.
My God.
I mean, like, that's it.
But, like, he didn't necessarily deserve forgiveness.
No.
He never apologized, so there's that.
You know, he's an awful person.
Terrible. But, like, it's this weird line of when you talk about, like, letting people be human. People come out of the cut with, like, horrible people, and they're like, so we can forgive this, right? I can have my favorite rapper. He kills people, but it's fine.
Right.
We're forgiving people.
Well, I mean, I feel like it's also, like, when there is that response, you, again, have to do some critical thinking and ask yourself, is saying something slightly problematic without the intention of doing so and raping someone on the same level?
Also,
And-
like, trying to smash a gay man's head in because he
Yeah,
looked
actually,
at you.
let's go with aggravated assault. Aggravated assault and saying something a little problematic. Are they on the same level? I would say no, and I think our country's justice system would agree with me.
Fair.
Most of the time.
Most of the time, yeah, maybe not in rape
Depends
cases.
on what
Sometimes
you
they're like, I don't know. He
What
was
are you
gay.
wearing?
He was gay. Who put a gay man in prison with a straight man?
No.
But, like, yeah, you definitely need to, you know, think for yourself. That's a big thing. Think for yourself and decide, is what they did something that reflects? Because I think the big thing comes from, is what they did something that is just revealing about their true character, or was it a mistake in the moment? Like, abusers, Chris Brown, things like that, where they have
Continually.
repeatedly
Yeah.
done like horrible things.
Yeah.
That is just them showing their true character.
Yeah, that's just
not
who they
something that
are.
you can forgive unless they have like, I don't know. I think that if an abuser does something once, is like, oh, that's messed up, they shouldn't necessarily like get like life sentence, you know, if they take steps and never do it again. But they also should not have a platform where they can influence other people
Yeah,
because
I
they
agree.
recognize that they're a flawed person. Like, I don't think that Chris Brown should be killed.
No.
But I don't think that
I
he should
definitely
have.
think he should be canceled.
Yeah, I don't think he should have the platform that he has.
Yeah.
Just because we recognize that he's a flawed person, we don't want a bunch of people looking up to someone who has that kind of flaw.
A flawed
like-
person who's not trying to fix themselves or trying to better themselves.
Mhm.
Oh, but instead just like continually makes excuses for themselves. Literally, Chris Brown came to
Yeah,
a concert here not too long ago, and literally like 2 days before the concert here, he got arrested for assaulting someone.
and people I knew who consider themselves woke went.
Woke.
And I
Exactly.
was
Like they bought tickets and went, and they're still like, oh, but like I'm not supporting an abuser. Like I just went because I like his music. Like no, you're paying
like,
to go watch an abuser.
and like
Therefore,
you're supporting his
supporting them.
lifestyle.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I understand it would be incredibly hard for me to stop consuming my favorite artist's material. Like I super like this one artist. If it came out that he had abused women and like was a truly terrible person, then it would be extremely hard for me to say I can't like buy any more of his songs and just stop streaming it. Like this is over. But I think that I would do it because in the long run, you can realize there are millions of artists out there. There is eventually going to be an artist that I connect with in the same way who has not abused people.
And I mean, that's a perfect example. Going to the concert, buying the ticket, supporting, that's a human thing. You like to do it, you like the artist, you want to go. However, if you hear and someone educates you and explains that no, you are actively supporting him and you are giving him your money, you are allowing him to live that lifestyle, and you choose to do it regardless, then that's not the same as realizing you've made a mistake. And I think that's really important to differentiate. And as well as separating the art from the artist.
You can't.
You can do it, you just have to be very careful. You can't stream their songs, and like you essentially, I mean, and a perfect example is Johnny Depp in the new Fantastic Beasts, that's the name of it, movie. People loved the first one, then everything came out about Johnny Depp, there's the second one out soon, and people want to continue to enjoy that franchise because not every actor there is an abuser.
Yeah.
But you are supporting Johnny Depp. You are, if the movie does equally as fine as the first one did, they're not going to see the problem with it. If you want to see the movie, rip it offline. Wait the extra, like, week or two it takes till it comes out online. Stealing is bad, kids. But...
But stealing from abusers is a gray area that we're okay with.
yeah, no, but if you're...
That's why stealing from Walmart's okay.
Be Robin Hood.
It's kind of like if my favorite artist turned out to be an abuser, if that didn't affect, I don't know, I think it would affect how I felt about like his music just because like it's an emotional thing for me. But if, let's say, it didn't affect Another Rose's like feelings towards the music, like I separated the art from the artist, I have physical copies of his music, so I think that I could still technically listen to those because the damage is done, and it was done like when I didn't know, so that's fine. If I started streaming his stuff though, or like bought his new album, then that's when I can't. You just kind of have to like realize like I can't do any more damage by continuing to support this person. I guess I can enjoy their old content, but that's
That's the thing. You have to not help them in any way, and it's definitely something you have to really consider, because that means not tweeting about them, that means not going on any hashtags, not streaming music, anything that you probably take for granted.
So kind of in conclusion, I think you shouldn't cancel someone because they say something out of ignorance, and you shouldn't cancel someone if they do something problematic that is not showing their like true character, that's just an accident at a time. I would say that the only time you can truly be like, you're done, you're over, is when they're coming from a place of hatred, or their problematic action is just showing who they truly are, or what their true beliefs are, what they truly think is okay to do to another human being.
Don't cancel them if they clearly want to better themselves.
Mm-hmm. Don't cancel people who want to learn.
Yeah.
Because I think that in order to like get society to where we want it to be, where everyone has equal rights, one day we're gonna have to educate some ignorant people, and it's gonna be rough, it's gonna be annoying trying to be kind and talk to a person who doesn't think that your existence should be allowed. But when you know that it's coming from a place of ignorance, and you can see that you can either win them over, or people seeing your argument will win someone over to your side, it would be great if you would take that high road and be the better person and try and get there. So, thank you for listening to today's episode. We'll have another episode out in about 2 weeks. And have a swell day.